A very warm good evening and welcome to Sunday Live right here on SABC 1. I am your host, Tumelo Mututwani. Well, it's Christmas season and this is the time to foster peace and unity amongst all South Africans. But how possible is this? Well, the Constitution of South Africa states that everyone has the right to freedom of conscience, religion, thought, belief, as well as opinion. And tonight's Sunday Live aims to place the spotlight on the different religions and beliefs that our colourful nation has and find out from our panel of guests, of course, if South Africans tolerate one another's different religions, their belief systems, as well as traditional practices. Well, our poll question to you this evening is, can different religious groups unite mankind? Well, unfortunately, we're not live tonight, so I cannot take your calls, nor take, of course, your SMS responses, but you can join our conversation on social media. On Facebook, we are Sunday Live on SABC 1. You can tweet at Sunday Live, SABC 1, or tweet me personally at T_Mututwani, and don't forget to hashtag Sunday Live SA. Now, to take us through our discussion this very evening, we're joined by Karen Barrenshea, the Regional Coordinator of the United Religious Initiative. And we're also joined by an audience comprising of members of the Jewish, the Muslim, as well as the Christian community. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Karen, thank you so much. Welcome to Sunday Live.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
Absolutely. Now, it's Christmas season, and I think this is one of the most important times to talk about how religion can play a role in uniting people and fostering peace and love among South Africans, because we have such a colourful religious, community in South Africa. But first and foremost, how important or what significant role does religion play in our country?
We're really blessed in South Africa to have such diversity, and I think it does play a role. Firstly, we have a very large Christian-based community, and yet there's such a natural acceptance of the different beliefs, not only the Abrahamic faiths, but traditional beliefs, cultural beliefs, spiritual expressions. So I do believe that fosters peace in our country, and it certainly led us through the apartheid. It was the religious leaders who came together and really helped to support us, and I think to keep peace to a large extent when there could possibly not have been peace.
And how do you think South Africans can, unite to promote peace through religion? I mean, we were having this conversation just offline that, sometimes it's that fear of the other, the fear of the unknown. But how do you think we can foster and promote peace, love and unity through our different and colourful religions?
I think firstly by inviting each other into that space. That's one thing that we do. Another hat that I wear is I'm part of the Cape Town Interfaith Initiative, and we often have gatherings where we share and express what it is that we believe in. But it's not only that, and so to educate each other about each other's faiths, because that does then take away the fear. It also demystifies some of the cultures and some of the practices and some of the rituals. The other thing that it does is it builds relationships between perhaps religious groups who are at war with other parts of the world. Some of that carries back into our country, and we certainly feel that. We've worked with it a number of times with peace processes and working with conflict resolution around that. And when people sit side by side and communicate and get to know each other, there are common values and common beliefs that come through that. But yes, the primary thing is that we get to know each other's religions, and from there, I think what we don't understand disappears.
But that's all romantic and all. But you work with the religious initiative organization. Are there any cases of intolerance still in our country when it comes to understanding or even accepting different religions?
In our country, we have a base of acceptance. We don't really have a non-acceptance. I think perhaps between the Abrahamic faiths, there's some tensions that come from the Middle East. And within our country, though, I don't certainly find that within the Cape Town region. Not sure about Johannesburg. Our panel might be able to help us with that. But no, I think that we're really blessed in our country to have a lot of tolerance. Where I do see things, problems happening, I think, and then religion becomes a target, is possibly where there's a scarcity of resources, or where there's perhaps a ritual, something like, well, I think a classic one is that, you take a cow into your garden and possibly kill your cow for a sacred ritual, and your Christian neighbor maybe would find that really abhorrent and offensive. And I think, again, it's then about us sitting down around a table and discussing and finding out what it's about and and how do we go about resolving that in some way, or finding a middle path between
It's interesting
us?
that you touch on that because, there are also a lot of cases where, in the suburbs, versus the townships where, like you said, you're able to perform your rituals of slaughtering a cow in a township. But however, sometimes people that believe in that specific traditional practice find it difficult to do that in the suburbs because, there are rules. And so I suppose my question to you is, are there appropriate places to ever practice one's religion and traditional practices, and are there not such appropriate places?
Well, I think within our religious institutions we do that, and that's obviously our place where we practice our faith. I think one of the things I found is that it's quite segregated. We do live in silos in lots of the parts of our country, and so and again, I think it's taking that traditional belief or belief in how do we practice that in a place perhaps that's not as accepting of how we live, and that we've had challenges. Yes, we have, and it's in some instances it's caused some real problems. And yes, there are health regulations or other things that can follow it. I don't know. For me, the path is always, and I always encourage it, is that people go and look for dialogue. Find those that can lead the dialogue and help you find a way to overcome it. Somewhere there must also be a place where we can agree to disagree. But often and this is not just my experience, even in South Africa, but even other parts of the world, where there's this deep animosity or deep distrust. It's until we build bridges and until we begin to share the responsibility and share the leadership, and there needs to be goodwill, and those are primary words: goodwill, shared responsibility, shared leadership. And until there's that willingness, it becomes almost impossible.
Alrighty then, well, let's hold our conversation right there, Karen. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we are engaging with our audience members. As I said before, they do comprise of members of the Muslim, the Jewish, as well as the Christian community. We'll find out more about how we can work together as a colourful nation, religiously colourful, in terms of promoting peace, love, and unity. You're watching Sunday Live. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sunday Live. Well, if you have just joined us, we are discussing different religious beliefs that we have in South Africa. And we're asking you this very evening if you feel that our different religions can unite to promote love, peace, and unity in our country. Well, don't hesitate to share your experiences and opinions on our topic on our social media pages, on Facebook, on Twitter, and don't forget to hashtag Sunday Live SA. So I'm going to take this conversation back to our audience members. Welcome back to Sunday Live once again. My lady, you have the mic. Do you have any comment or question? Is there anyone who has a comment or question, anything to ask or say? Yes, gentlemen.
Well, firstly, I'd like to say that I think in a South African context, it's beyond tolerance. I think we're on the border of acceptance, and that's a much higher level than tolerance. If we take ourselves more or less a year back to the loss of one of the great leaders in South Africa who was a unifying factor for people of different religions, the late former President Nelson Mandela, then we see at his memorial ceremony where we had leaders from the different religious aspersions, do prayer.
Yes.
And that was, cast in the spotlight globally, where people found, wow, the people of the Muslim faith, of the Jewish faith, of the Christian faith, of other faith backgrounds as well, could pray together, could stand together, and could celebrate someone who's contributed to building our particular nation. So as South Africans, I think we're way beyond tolerance. Tolerance has this connotation of, I'm subjugated to have to accept.
Right.
Whereas acceptance is more free and more forthcoming.
Very interesting. Thank you so much for highlighting the very historic moment in our country. Anyone else with a comment or a question, perhaps even an experience when it comes to tolerance and acceptance of one's religion? Gentlemen?
Thank you very much. I want to speak to the part where how can religion help unify and bring peace in the nation of South Africa? I think when we move away from a very selfish sport of wanting to increase congregations and wanting to convert people and increase converts and not further and deepen the principles of the religions. I'll give a very practical example. Nelson Mandela, from the principles of Christianity, the principle of love. Love to us as Christians it's not a feeling, it's not an emotion. Love is giving someone what they need the most when they least deserve it. So Mandela gave his oppressors forgiveness, what they needed the most. Aware or unaware didn't matter to him. And when they least deserved it, 27 years in prison, because as a Christian man, he did not want to come out and say, let's all become Christians. He says, let's build a nation. And you build a nation by taking the principles of what you believe in and giving it to the nation to say, let's use this because it works. Then after that, the people can then choose, I think I should be a Christian. I think I should be this. I think I should be that. Not using these as a way of bringing in converts. So like you've got giant churches and giant whatever. But it is for the purpose of building peace. And Mandela was a very, very perfect example of that. And now the question lies in, how do we do that?
How do we do
because there needs to be finesse and precision to that. And because too early is equivalent to too late. If we're too late with that, it might not achieve the goal that it's supposed to achieve. So remove the hidden agendas and bring in the principles of what you believe in, not to convert us. I don't want to be converted.
I want to also know from you how you feel about the demonizing of other religions, you know, and feeling that yours is more important than other religions. What do you make of that?
Yes, just speaking to what you were saying earlier, in Judaism we have a concept that every life is worth an entire world. And I think this is a mainstay of our religion, that every world is so important and every human being and their individual faith compromises an entire universe. But those universes are very separate in our communities. I think what's important is to counteract this othering of people, to bring a dialogue and to foster communication between us. I've had the privilege of being in interfaith conferences where you learn so much about what others are like and how similar we are, and to celebrate our differences, but to come back and to focus on our similarities as well.
Thank you so much. Karen, I want to know from you what you make of the comments so far. Seems that, you know, love is at the center and at the core of, you know, different religions.
The fact that there is a core of love speaks volumes. I don't think it's necessarily the word that gets said as much as there is action. I know, for example, around Christmas that within Christians who are working in hospitals or whatever it might be, Jewish nurses will step in or Jewish doctors will step in and say, you go and take your Christmas or whatever it might be, and vice versa when it's Eid. And I find that in itself is just that more than acceptance, it's the love and the caring that is demonstrated, mostly.
Absolutely. Well, let's take a short break. When we come back, rounding off our discussion right here on Sunday Live, and we're also going to be taking more comments or even questions from our audience members. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sunday Live. Now, since we're not live tonight, we, of course, cannot review all your poll engagement on social media, but please keep the conversation going, and we'll just have to interact there and also just find out what our audience members have to say about our poll question, which I have to take back to you guys. Now, I need to hear more comments from you. And also, is there anyone who would like to also share personal experiences in terms of being embraced in their community or not due to their religious background? Anyone?
Growing up in the dusty streets of Guatemala, which is actually in the township, it was, you grow up with this thing that you understand only that religion is only confined to Christianity. And that is one of the, probably the difficult times when you start spreading out to the world and you're understanding that there's people that are Islamic and Jewish as well. So for me, I think the most important thing is about actually embracing the diversity within the And then once you understand the diversity, then it's easier for you to not only accept, but also understand that other people have got other different religions. Accept them and also understand them. I mean, another point that was mentioned here, it was actually love. I mean, it's easier for us to just say the word out love, where else there's actually no love. But I think love, it's when you go beyond the parameters that which confines you as a specific religion. Once I start seeing someone else and I say, that is my brother, that is my sister, regardless of their religion, I think that is one imperative point. And I think once we start understanding that basic fundamental, and that's when we're going to start uniting as a nation.
Now, as you mentioned that you're from the dusty streets of Guatemala, you know, you remind him of also the correlation between race and religion? Because at times when you are a black African Christian, you are discriminated against as, practicing the white man's religion, whereas you need to practice traditional, more cultural practices to be accepted in your communities. We also find, black people experiencing that in the country. But thank you so much for highlighting that. Is there anyone else that would like to comment? Please, gentlemen.
Thank you. I think one of the most beautiful things about South Africa is what Brother Abdurrahman and several of us had mentioned, is this idea of moving beyond tolerance towards acceptance. Myself, coming as a Palestinian American from the US, I've been here for about a year studying towards a postgraduate degree, and I'll be here for several years. And I've never felt more comfortable in my own skin as a Muslim. Coming from the US, where there's a lot of Islamophobia, anti-Muslim racism, we're surveilled, we're watched. I mean, South Africa, it's a different story. I think part of the reason has to do with the role Muslims played in the struggle, alongside others, in bringing forward Mandela's Rainbow Nation. But that brings me to my second point about feeling accepted. When we talk about religion, and as a student of theology, the prophets of our scriptures, male and female, and prophetic figures throughout history, have been those who fed the poor, like Jesus. They cared for the sick, and they stood for the downtrodden. So, as we remember Christmas, we have to remember the life of Jesus, a first century Palestinian Jew who didn't care if you were Jew or Gentile. He was there for you as the other, as the poor, as the sick, and as someone who was oppressed. So how can we find peace and unity in a world of difference? Not only that, but how can we find justice?
Right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Let's take our last comment at the back.
Thank you very much. According to what my father taught me as a Christian, he said true Christianity is irresistible. I need to present myself. People need to see the lifestyle that I live for them to know that this one is a Christian or not. And the mere fact that we are in South Africa, what I can say, they think that, as you said, what we have been faced off, or the thing that we've been finding ourselves into, as we stand with Israel. So for certain people, it really looks weird, saying, no, how come you as a black man, you are standing for Israel, support the Jews. The Bible I read recommended miso. My father teach miso. So it shouldn't be a problem for anyone to say, no, as a black man, why do you stand with Israel? Why do you support Israel? So we need to respect each person. I respect your religion, you respect mine. No matter what I stand for, no matter what I do, no matter what I decide, that depends up to me and the principles that my father taught me. So we should be able to say, no, this one is Muslim, this one is Christian, this is Jew. The stand of that Christian person does not matter to you. It's not your opinion, it's probably to mine. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I just want to take back, one last comment and talk to the gentlemen that are black and Jew. Have you faced any discrimination at all for being black and Jew and, being seen as not being Christian or not practicing your African traditional cultural practices? I just need to hear the comment, please.
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity. I feel like I deserve the credit to answer this question because, speaking from a side of going to school, that has been really oppressive for me because from my teachers to my fellow peers, they hadn't how can I say, supported me on this idea from the very first day. They said, Carlos, you black. Why are you abducting this? Why are you taking this? So I faced a lot of persecution, but over time they began to see my commitment and they began to say, no, it's cool, you can do it. But to answer your question, yes, in the beginning it was a lot of tension and I faced a lot of persecution. I was even tempted to give it all up.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. All righty then. Let me just take one last comment. You want to say something at the top briefly, please, to the gentleman?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to add to what the people were saying, and that what brings us all together is that we're human beings. That's the first thing that brings us all together. Whether I'm a Jew, whether I'm a Christian, whether I'm Muslim, what brings us all together is that we are human beings. And that when I respect you as a human being, you respect me as a human being. And I think that's what brings love, unity, and peace, when we respect one another. And that's the first thing that we need to, that we're human beings.
Thank you so much for highlighting that. Karen, I need to bring, our conversation back to you. We've heard, so much of, our audience members' experiences, which also brought me to asking them about, the correlation between race and religions. How are you working as an organization with government, to try and promote acceptance in that regard, and also just education, because I think it's also a lack of not knowing.
Oh, and certainly this has been for many years, and again, I speak from Cape Town, and I'm hoping to find out a little bit more about how Johannesburg has been working with this. That at the time of the struggle, the interfaith leaders came together and led a march in our city, and currently we work very closely with the Mayor's office, and we let the province know as well when we have events. Tonight we have an interfaith music event, we have an annual lecture regularly, and we have different faiths, and again that creates awareness. We just had an event recently at the mosque here in Midrand, where we had in URI, United Religions Initiative, we work with cooperation circles on the ground, grassroots, at UJ, at very different places. It depends. And again, inviting someone from Freedom Park, the interfaith committee that is there, and we let them know what we are doing, and then also to find out what they are doing and how they want to engage and work with public participation. It's not easy. I think as public, as us on the ground, as the religious community, spiritual community, we need to be talking to government, because they've got resources very often, but they don't always know where to go. Right. It's about us jumping up and down and going, here, can we have those resources, please? Can we interact with you? Can we be present in your conversations, meetings, decisions? After all, we are the government. So it's bringing our spiritual values and our traditions to the table, and I think also our common values that we share. And I agree with the lady who brought about that fact, where our common values and work with those within our communities.
Oh, thank you so much, Karen Berenshaw, for joining me. Thank you so much for your time this evening, and thank you so much to everyone for coming and being a part of our audience. Thank you so much for sharing your personal experiences as well with us. Alrighty, well, thanks to you as well for joining us right here on Sunday Live. Well, as you know, it is Christmas season, so I hope you did have a wonderful Christmas, and I hope and wish you a prosperous New Year as well. Don't forget to also be safe on the roads. I know it's time to travel, see family, and come back home for the New Year, but of course do that very well, safely, and buckle up. That's the most important thing. But thank you so much to all our guests. Thanks to you for watching. My name is Tumelo Mututwani. I'll see you in the New Year. Until then, goodbye.